How do you feel about the progress today when it comes to AI?
The best data analysts, the ones that are going to survive this wave of AI technology, are going to be the ones who can learn to coexist with it. Being anti-AI at this point, you're probably punching at the air.
Another aspect that I see is like a lot of individuals in your industry, their entire identity is in that. This is who they are.
I would caution generally about putting too much of your identity into what you do for work, and that identity shifts or becomes conflicted or is taken from you. It's not a pleasant one. I'm a 2-time thyroid cancer survivor, right? So it's like, bro, I literally had cancer. Like, you stare death in the face a couple times, it shifts your perspectives significantly. Just me realizing that I'm probably one of the people that can't was very important for me. Take stock of your own self-worth and go test the market. You might be surprised how you stand out in a crowded field given your own experiences.
Bill, thank you so much for being here today and for, coming to Kansas City.
I walked around a bit while I got here. It's a beautiful city, honestly. Right. I knew nothing about it, but it's very, very walkable. Very quiet. I mean, it is a Wednesday afternoon, so it's probably...
It's very quiet because I've lived in Burbank, California, and I hated it. It was too much, too loud, too much going on. So I do want you to kind of give me like a 360 view of what is it that you do just on a daily basis, apart from the LinkedIn memes and the comments and the engagements that you do.
The easiest way to explain it is, you join a big company, you get a record in Workday, that explains who you are as an employee, what your employee number is. Based on your hire date, you have things like tenure at the company, what your job position is or job level. And all of these things, create like a profile about you as an individual and your employee kind of experience that you're having potentially through other means like a survey or whatever. Right. So this is kind of like the all-in story about the employee from when they were recruited through when they became a full-time employee. And there's lots of questions about that the business is looking for. Like it touches on things like team sizing and who are people working on the right projects and am I staffed effectively? So lots of basic sounding HR questions come back to data that then a people analyst team will help fulfill. But it's akin to a finance analyst in the finance field. A lot of big companies have real estate analysts as well. So you'll find analyst titles in most departments. People analyst is just specifying it as I'm an analyst in the HR function.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So like, how do you like about working with HR? I deal with a lot of HR individuals, and I find it very difficult. So as an analyst, how does it play out for you?
The reputation can be difficult. I know HR often has a more generally negative connotation. Things you'll hear is like, they're here for the business and not for you.
HR is not your friend.
It's a common refrain.
And don't come for me, HR folks. I'm just trying to understand how Bill sees things.
The reality is I often say like, I'm not that kind of HR because I'm not enforcing policy or dealing with terminations or hiring for that matter, right? It's really like I'm in the data. And what I learned when I was in internal audit consulting was I enjoyed the data element of that. Like I'm a numbers person. I enjoy fooling with spreadsheets, making charts, dashboards, all that kind of stuff. And I also am like very invested in the human element of work. And so it was just a nice marrying of the two fields that I only found it when I was working at that company for a while, and it just kind of came onto me organically. So I originally was playing with data for clients because, like I said, it was an audit consulting company. So I was looking at things like fraud data or T&E spend. How many times is the credit card swiped versus how much money are they spending, and looking for outliers there to see if there's any potential fraud. And eventually the firm's HR heard about this like whiz kid with a Tableau license who could, make terrible spreadsheets into these amazing dashboards. And I just started getting these data sets. Then I just started finding my way like in the people analytics field organically. I was the firm's first HR data analyst without really knowing I was at the time. And then a few years later, when it became clear that maybe I didn't want to spend any more time in that specific company, I saw a job posting at Google for HR data analyst, and I'm like, that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah. So my resume matched it really well, and I was able to kind of just fall into that job, and then I became a proper people analyst.
Right. And like at any given time, how many people were you like directly in charge of, especially at Google back then? Did you have to have a bigger team, or was it a more
So the nice thing about my role at Google was I was a technical lead. So that meant I got to oversee the direction and the technical growth of other analysts.
Right.
It was between 3 to like 7 at any given point in time, but I didn't have to deal directly with like the performance management or any of the more direct day-to-day minutia of being a people manager. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And like how long were you at Google? I remember you said about eight years.
Yeah, almost 8 years by the time I left. Yeah.
And what was that experience like? Just working at such a high, I feel like Google always feels like a startup. It doesn't matter how big they get. You get that feeling of like a massive startup. How was that like for you?
It was honestly a dream. When I was in college, I had this little video. It was really funny. I had to take an online public speaking course one session, and I thought it was the biggest joke because this is, like 2012, 2013, something like that. And I remember like seeing this on the curriculum and being like, when in the world would I need to do online virtual public speaking? Like, when will that be a thing?
Yeah.
Spoiler, I was really, really, really wrong about that.
Yeah, COVID.
I mean, most of my day now is just spent staring at a webcam and has been for many years. But I still have this clip on my computer, on my Google Drive, where I was being interviewed by somebody and they're like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I clumsily but I knew this question was coming, but I still didn't quite know how to answer it. And I said something along the lines of like, well, someday I'd like to work for a company like Microsoft or Google. And I knew that to be true because in my mind, like working for a tech company like Google with like very good values and just a really interesting workspace was something that would be genuinely fascinating to me. And, the reality was I never thought that I was smart enough, good enough, had the pedigree that would actually lead me there.
Right.
That's often not the case, right? You have to take stock of what you learn over time. And my degree is from Virginia Tech, but it wasn't Ivy League or Harvard or anything like that. And so when I landed at Google, it was truly like, wow, I'm fulfilling this dream that I never really expected to manifest. And being in a field that I felt like really at home with, right? Where I knew I enjoyed the subject matter as well. And so I started on a really kind of operational analytics team. Just like simple business requests would come in. We would fulfill them by, writing a SQL query for the nerds listening. For the non-nerds, it's just like pull data out of a database, get to the metrics that we're looking for, maybe build a simple dashboard over top of it. And it's really, not terribly sexy work, right? If you're trying to break into the data analytics field, but it's very critical work to understanding like the foundations of how everything works. And so I spent a couple years working on that team before an opportunity on the employee engagement / sentiment team opened up, where they administer the annual survey called Google Geist, which is like, I'm confident in the company's future. I approve of my leader's vision, diversity, commitment to my career development. Those kind of questions would go out every year. And this survey was really, really, it had like a 90% response rate. Like people were very invested in it. It was like an institution of the company. So I talked to the manager on that team and she was like, I would love to have you on there. And I made the jump. And that was my first foray into like employee engagement, well-being, kind of understanding the breadth of the employee experience through the lens of the employees themselves. And I realized I'm very, very passionate about that field. To this day, I'm a big survey wonk. I love what we can derive from it, how we can do it well, do it poorly. There's kind of a whole science behind how surveys can be well designed and created. And so I spent almost 4 years of almost half the time at Google was working on that kind of stuff. And I was just in my element, really, really enjoyed it. And that's where I started doing a lot of data product creation on my own, where I'm just like, I don't like this dashboard. I'm just going to go build my own. And I was really empowered to do that there. And I had a lot of the most cutting edge technology to be able to pull it off. So it was a ton of fun. I really, really enjoyed not all aspects of it. There's some operational stuff that, can be a little dry, but
Right.
I always use the analogy, like no one pays me to water ski, like work is going to be work sometimes, but even like the dull parts of it were pretty fulfilling to me.
Right.
And, then a few years later, I was put onto the scaled analytics team, which is basically what it sounds like, take data analytics and scale it out to more user bases in a way that, brings information directly to the users themselves. And it was leveraging a lot of the stuff that I was kind of championing from the analyst ecosystem, was what we called it there, of basically being like, we're going to build really good first party platforms that make people think dashboards don't suck, honestly. I didn't always get it right, but in the data analytics field, there's tons of dashboards every left, right, and center, honestly. And a lot of people have rather negative opinions of them because there's so many, they're hard to use, people don't understand them. And I had this vision of like, if I could just do it better, if I could just figure out how to put something in someone's hand that just like resonates with them, then maybe they would see the light and we could do better by them, and we could empower them to make better business decisions through interacting with our data tools. And that worked very well. And it ended up leading towards a massive expansion in our team, because thankfully our leadership in the business saw the value of what we were providing. And I'm pretty sure it's still operating to that day, in that way to this day. But, eventually you spend so long in the same place, you take stock of how much of your career, which is quite a bit for me, but still how much of your career is left versus how much is gone. And it's like, well, maybe I should be looking at other opportunities to see what else is out there for me and continue making sure I'm challenging myself. And so I saw, almost in the exact same way I found the role at Google, this perfectly crafted role for me at Netflix, and thought that would be an interesting company to go work for. I've always respected the product, been a subscriber since they were shipping DVDs. And so I threw my hat in the ring for that and got the job and decided to take it. So yeah, I think all in all, it was a really good experience at Google, but I'm also very fortunate now at Netflix to be continuing the work that I enjoy on a really, really productive team.
I do want to go back to your experience in Google, though. I'm curious to know why you left and then decided to go to Netflix, because you've been there for a very long time. I'm sure that must have been a very hard decision. Even, you found another role that fit, but still there has to be oh wow, this is 8 years of your life.
It was a very difficult decision. I lost sleep over it for countless nights, because you can never know if you're making the right decision ultimately. At Google, I had a very strong reputation in the data analyst ecosystem, as I mentioned, just by virtue of being there for a really long time. I had a lot of connections, a lot of colleagues that, I did and still do consider friends. And it's never easy once you've invested that much of yourself and your personality into one company. But the reality is the company was getting bigger, priorities were changing. And as I looked at it from beginning to end, it was, start in 2017 and around early 2025, like things looked much differently at that point. The priorities changed for our department significantly. I don't want to get too sad here on the podcast, but
you're fine. It's a mental health focused podcast. So.
Layoffs became a thing, right? One day they were completely unheard of, and the next day it was like kind of business as usual. That workforce reductions were going to be kind of a regular occurrence, and I went on paternity leave like a week before my team got redeployed on working on some stuff that was adjacent to layoff stuff. And when I came back, they had been rolled off of it because the big January 2023 layoffs that happened at Google, but was also happening across big tech considerably at that time, had occurred already. I came back to work and it was kind of business as usual, but there was this just like air of workforce reduction stuff around that. Yeah, like one of the one of the like tactical things, not to get too in the weeds, was just basically like, people leave a company, it results in an exit rate or an attrition rate. It's just like the number of people who left over the number of people that you have, and that gives you a percentage, and that gives you kind of a normalized sense of how many people are walking out the door.
Right.
Well, all of a sudden, some large percent of those people were not asking to walk out the door. They were being laid off. And so there was this demand from the business, a valid one, to be like, hey, on this dashboard, I want to be able to like click a button to like remove the layoffs, because I just want the normalized line and not like the big spike that happens when the big layoffs happened. And we pushed back against that for a while, because we were like, well, this is a one-time company event. Right. So we're not gonna, build this into our products, because I'm not gonna build something on a one-off. Like, we don't build infrastructure around this just happenstance thing. But then it kept happening over the course of months, and eventually you have to relent and be like, okay, we're gonna add the button. And just like even adding that little button to my dashboards, just like it was different from the engagement work that I had mentioned earlier, where it's like, make work better for employees, understand how they're actually functioning in the organization, make their experience better. Like these, like, in my mind, really noble things switched more to like business objective kind of things, which is, it's going to happen. I will say capitalism comes for us all eventually, right? And in this case, it kind of started draining on me. And I think that was the first like chip on the mental health, I think, that I started to feel pervasively. Right. And then a few years later, maybe a year later or so, ChatGPT comes and changes the world, right? Everybody all of a sudden is like, oh my gosh, how do I use AI and all of that stuff? And that further just kind of like changed the department in ways that, I'm sure excites a lot of people still. And there's really good analysts there that are still moving towards those goals. But for me, it just, a lot of it felt really,
less human.
Yeah, just less human, a little more hollow. There was also like some implications to my career trajectory that left me kind of feeling a little stranded. It felt off, honestly, like one night I was, top of my game, data analyst on a strong career trajectory, to the next day being like, well, we're doing AI stuff now. So the bar has changed and your promotion trajectory is kind of completely awry. Also, this ties into lots of budget cuts that are happening. And it just it hurt, honestly, right? And I eventually took stock on the physical impacts this was having onto me. I started getting the Sunday scaries right before going into work on Monday, and just conversations with my manager became more difficult. And there was just one meeting where a series of events happened, and I just broke. I just texted my teammate immediately, like, yeah, I think I'm out of here. Like, this is just, I don't think this is good for my mental health anymore. And it wasn't, right? I mean, as soon as I made the switch, I realized I was having lots of physical manifestations of that stress. That my heart palpitations. I thought I was having a heart attack one Saturday morning. I went to the urgent care and they're like, dude, this is just heartburn. I don't know what you're talking about. And I went to see my doctor about it. He's like, this sounds like stress, right? And so maybe, is there anything you could do to alleviate the stress? And I said, well, I'm, interviewing for new jobs. Like, maybe if I make a career change, this is something that could help me. And it turns out it did. Right. And so even still, even knowing how much stress I was under and kind of becoming vividly aware of it in the moment, it still was a really, really hard decision. Right. One that I agonized over for weeks, ultimately, when it was all said and done. But at this point, it was a year ago, so I have the benefit of hindsight, and it was a good move. And I think, to anybody listening, like, if there's any inkling of you feeling like you need to make a change, there's no harm in hitting the market for some interviews. I think what prevented me from doing it earlier was like a really innate sense of loyalty to the company. But ultimately, a company's going to do the right thing for their bottom line. If I didn't leave of my own accord, it's possible that I would have been laid off, right? I knew at the very least, my career trajectory was impacted. So the promotion wasn't coming as soon as I thought I deserved it. And so take stock of your own self-worth and go test the market. But there's no harm in putting your resume together and just dropping it and seeing what happens. I know it's a tough market right now, but you might be surprised how you stand out in a crowded field given your own experiences.
Yeah. No, yeah. Even to that point, I know a lot of, people that are in HR, all, they're like in talent and they're in charge of people. They're all experiencing similar, like signs of stress because they know that this person is going to get cut off. And the fact that that adds so much stress on the human body.
Yes.
Knowing, and you, on the other hand, actually building something that helps that. I'm sure that also adds to the, like the physical manifestation of all the stress.
Absolutely. So, and it does put I was working with dozens of people
that you care about,
who I care about, and they also don't want to be working on that stuff, right? It's just, so everybody is feeling that tension, and it creates a much different environment that eventually, some people can maybe sustain and some people can't, right? And just me realizing that I'm probably one of the people that can't was very important for me.
Indeed. But I'm happy that you make the right decision because now you're making all of us happy on LinkedIn. Okay. So thank you. I do want to talk about AI though, because you kind of gently touched on it earlier. I do know a lot of analysts that are, not very AI, pro AI, but then also there are some that are like, this is helping me, do something that would take me 3 weeks to do within 30 minutes. How do you feel about just the progress today when it comes to AI?
I'm definitely firmly in both camps of those perspectives. I think there's this, at the beginning, I think the perspective of a lot of business leadership was data analysis is hard. Let's make it easier with AI, which means effectively let's replace our analysts with AI. And nobody wants to work on projects that are eventually going to replace them. That's a really daunting kind of task to undertake. But the reality is it's a really useful tool. I can point to things that I'm doing in my day-to-day work that would have taken me a lot longer before having these tools available. Specifically, I can give Gemini or ChatGPT or whatever the layout of a data table, the SQL dialect that I'm working in and the engine, and say, I need to do X, spit me out a starter query to do such a thing. And it'll just be, here you go. Wow. That might have taken me, 20, 25 minutes to get off the ground from scratch, but now I have it in a minute. It might not be perfect, but even if I take 5 minutes to correct the thing, that's still a 20-minute time savings. Stack that up over the period of a day or a week or a year, you are unlocking a lot more capability that I think is time that you can then use to do kind of higher order things. In analytics, there's this concept of the long tail of requests, which is give me a list of people in this office who are in this department, right? Is the most basic manifestation of this, where before an analyst might have to go write a script from scratch that pulls that out of the database, and then they put it into a sheet or whatever, and then they turn it around to the user. Now we can outsource a lot of that straight to a chatbot that can generate that query in real time, maybe even run it and get you the results. That lets me focus on things that are maybe more important, right? Which is communicating results to stakeholders, asking better business questions, trying to gain context to understand how we can use data to solve these more heady business problems. So the reality is there's a lot of work still that requires the human touch, and the AI piece of it helps expedite a lot of this more operational things that can be both time consuming and raise the barrier to entry for data analysts entirely. So I think the best data analysts, the ones that are going to survive this wave of AI technology, are going to be the ones who can learn to coexist with it and leverage it to drive more productive business outcomes for their department, for their function, for their company, what have you. I do think, the net result of this might be fewer data analyst roles. So it just resulting, just like every other field, in a more competitive landscape for breaking into this industry. So it does it does make it challenging, right? If you're an entry level person trying to get into this space, for sure. I often feel a little bit unfairly advantaged in that I've been in this field for a while now. So I know a lot of the right questions to ask and how to actually leverage this to make my day faster. This is not a luxury that people who have never worked in the field have at this point in time. Right. So I'm pro, using it to make work better and easier for me. Definitely anti. I would prefer it doesn't replace me entirely. But again, from what I've seen on the field, I don't know if that's like a reality that's going to manifest anytime soon, because the human element is still really, really important in this work.
Yeah. And like another aspect that I see is like a lot of individuals in your industry, HR, their entire identity is in that. This is who they are. This is what they do. It's literally, their entire being, their world. Yeah. So with AI coming in, is there anything that you can offer as a piece of advice as individuals that are, it's becoming our reality. It is our reality at this point. Definitely. And people's identities are being attacked. And that's what I keep seeing or hear whenever I have those conversations. I don't know if there's anything that you can offer. I don't have anything to offer as an advice, but I don't know if you have something that you can share to help people shift their identities from these titles.
I mean, I would caution generally about putting too much of your identity into what you do for work, right? I went down that road. It's not a pleasant one, right? When that identity shifts or becomes conflicted or is taken from you. So AI aside, try to take stock of like what actually makes you, which is not, you facilitate tough HR cases at your day job. You're a human being with so much more to offer than just what you do for work. Right. But separate from that, I would just see this as an opportunity that is, whether it was AI, it was going to be some other technology that's going to come around and change the game. It happens all the time. Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. Remember a few years ago, blockchain was going to change everything and everybody needed to learn about that immediately. I don't know what's up with blockchain right now.
Yeah, what happened to the blockchain?
I don't know. NFTs, we could talk about that for a while. Yeah. But I would try to reframe that fear as a learning opportunity. And I have always taken the perspective of like, if somebody else can learn it, I can too. Right? There's limits to that. I'm not going to learn open heart surgery in this lifetime in all likelihood, but I could learn the mechanics of how it actually works, right? I know we talked about you reading dissertations all the time.
Oh, man, yeah, don't get me started.
I mean, I'm sure there's subjects that you're like, what in the world are they talking about? Yes. But even if you come out of that dissertation on the other side, 5%, with 5% understanding, that's still 5% more than what you had before. Right. So I think a lot of this is mindset. Trying to reframe things as challenges that you can overcome is going to start to rewire you in a way that kind of puts the fear in a box and lets you try to attack this more productively, because being anti-AI at this point, you're probably punching at the air, right? There's so many companies that are dumping so much money into trying to figure out how to make this work for them. Right. It's going to stick eventually, right? There is flaws to it. It's going to get stuff wrong sometimes, right? It might cause more chaos in the beginning than actual productivity or progress. But I mean, I just keep thinking back to like, it's stupid because it doesn't really tie to like the business workflows, but the Will Smith eating spaghetti progress. I'm sure you've seen that.
Oh man, it happened so fast.
So fast. The 2022, it's like it's comical how bad it is.
How bad it was.
And now we're early 2026, and it's just like, well, that's a freaking video of Will Smith eating spaghetti. That's for sure. Right. And so it's going to continue to get to a spot where if it's not great at it today, it very well could be at it tomorrow. And so I would just encourage people to try to jump on the wave and understand how they can use it to leverage better outcomes for the work. And then in turn, you're going to be a lot more competitive in your department, in your company, when it comes time to be like, well, we want to reassess workforce because AI is here. The people who are really good at using it are going to be the ones that are going to be most safe, right, in those situations.
Yeah. So basically, go, use it, learn it, and don't put your identity in it.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
And just enjoy the process.
Yeah.
I do want to switch a little bit.
Sure.
I know you were pretty big on LinkedIn, and you've done a really good job just building a community and then also keeping the community very engaged. I've seen some some posts that you've made. Someone will go in and then try to attack you, and then your community will come in and be like, "Hey, get out of here!" Why is that important to build that audience that, from the outside looking in, it looks like it has nothing to do with helping you achieve anything in your business, or just even like working at Netflix, but you were doing all these things. And then the other side of the question is like, how are you able to do that with the company that you work with today? Because I know, some companies are not okay with their employees out there wilding, because that's what you were doing.
So I think to answer the first part of the question, it's probably important to talk about like why I started doing this, which was about a month into my new role at Netflix. I went onto LinkedIn, and I just had this realization that I had been going on there for years, over a decade since I've been in college, and made the account for the first time, and just was not getting really anything out of it. Like the thought leadership on there seemed very performative. People were just like, look at me, look how smart I am. Or like, I went to this conference, here's selfies of me, right? And it's just like, okay, very, very cool. And I realized most importantly that I was never laughing when I was on there. I think one of my core philosophies is that you make better memories, you learn better, you retain information if you can pair it with laughter. It's like one of these emotions that opens the brain up in a different way and makes people like really, really connect with the message that you're trying to land. And I also realized that data analysts, be it HR, finance, across all industries, have these like really shared frustrations and norms. Like we've all sweared at spreadsheets. We've all made a dashboard that we've hated. We've all had to look at some stakeholder and explain and almost apologize why some data is broken that's totally not our fault. It's like somebody fat fingered something in Workday and everything's all jagged up now, and like, sorry, we have to go figure it out. And I realized that like poking fun at these things was a way to like build community amongst the data analyst sphere. And I just thought, what do I have to lose? I've had this LinkedIn forever. I'm not using it. So just like make some jokes and see what happens. And it just took off really quickly. It coincided with a lot of people, I think, seeing LinkedIn as very performative and wanting to kind of turn that on its head and try to make this be a more engaging and interactive place for people. And so these posts, I started off getting not very many likes or comments on anything because it takes a little time to grow this following. But in retrospect, it happened really quickly, where I just had a couple posts go viral, the following starts growing, and then it just doesn't really stop growing. The line on my follower analytics chart is just basically up and to the right at this point at a pretty steady
like
state.
A hockey stick.
Yeah. And I tried to be really positive about stuff. I tried to, not represent my company in a poor way, which gets the second part of your question that I'll address more in a second. But it also like just brought people in and made people feel welcome and at home in my comments section. And I would try to make a post and hang around for a little while, answering all the comments as quickly as I could, make people laugh, put oftentimes better jokes than my own jokes were showing up in the comments. So I'll often put like, as always, the real jokes are in the comments because somebody is going to say something that's way funnier than whatever I posted. But I welcome it, right? Because it creates like a forum for people to come and just like relax a little bit. It's very corporate stuffy. And as you mentioned, I don't I'm not out there selling leads.
Right.
I don't have an ebook to sell or whatever to people. Like I'm not making any money off of the platform. I'm truly just there to try to educate through laughter of like what happens in the life of a data analyst, try to make people feel a sense of community, which I've been vindicated in that it's growing quite well. And then that leads to effectively people that don't like what you're doing, right? Once your reach gets so far, I mean, it's almost guaranteed at this point when I put a post out and I see it do like impressions over, let's say 50,000 or something, which is, I would consider like semi-viral. Viral is relative to everybody though. I would say, you know, it has a lot of like, what's your follower base, how often you're posting, that kind of stuff. But once I see a post get over like 50,000 impressions or something, it's almost guaranteed that like these third degree connections are going to come out of the woodwork and just being like, this isn't what LinkedIn is for. Or like, or if I'm making a joke, they just like, or a satire, they're just completely unaware that satire exists on LinkedIn, and they will just take it completely literally and be like, oh, you're such a jerk. And it's like the vast majority of my comment section is like in on the joke and is aware that I'm not actually like, if you talked to me, if we got a beer together, I'm sure we would agree on basically everything that we're saying. And I'd be like, yeah, that was a satire. But you know, nuance is really lost over the text sometimes, and so people will start attacking, being very, very mean, and that's what leads to people jumping in and being like, "Hey, this is our Bill. This is the guy with the pirate flag in his name. Like, you can't do this to him. You know, this is a joke." And it honestly, it's like it feels nice, right? That people are that passionate about what I'm posting and what I'm doing to feel like they're going to throw their hat in the ring for me and say like, hey, this is unacceptable. Like, what are you doing? And it often leads to them deleting their comments. So oftentimes before I can even like read them. Like sometimes I'll get messages from people being like, oh, you should have seen that comment that I responded to. And I'm like, okay, summarize it for me.
Take a screenshot next time.
I do get screenshots sometimes. But the nice thing is, you know, my dad always said that like, 99% of people are good, right? 1% of people are bad. That might be wishful thinking in this day and age, but I'd still like it to be true. And
we need more thinking like that right now. So thanks to your dad.
Shout out dad. If you ever like, you know, watch this pod, love you. But I find that to be true on LinkedIn too. It's like the 99% of the comments are good and funny and enjoying the time. And then that's the 1% of people who are just mad and on the internet. And I'll always make jokes like, if you could just channel that anger to like the gym, you'd be so big right now. Just why are you putting it to LinkedIn, man? Just get on a treadmill and run it out. You know, you'll love it. But to answer the second question, you know, how does it coexist with my work life is I try to do it delicately, right? My teammates, my boss are very aware of what I'm doing on there. So I do follow some rules. I'm never going to speak ill of my employer. Very rarely even like talk about Netflix. Like I just had a work anniversary, so I posted about that. But like Netflix isn't even in my headline or anything, because I don't want my jokes or my memes or whatever to be misconstrued with it, as corporate communications, because it's not. You know, like even here, like I'm not representing Netflix, right? I'm talking about Bill as the person, and that's who I'm representing on LinkedIn. And so I try to keep those worlds very separate. And I will also like try to segment my activity between like the workday and not. So typical schedule for me, I wake up around 5:30, go down to my basement, do a workout for about an hour, maybe think a little bit about the post I'm going to make, maybe don't, you know, and at the end of it, go over to my computer while I'm cooling off and fire off a post. Then throughout the morning when I'm getting ready for my day, walking my dogs, getting my daughter breakfast, things like that, I'll respond to some comments. But then when I go to my office and I sit down and open up the laptop for the day, I'm basically off of LinkedIn until, I don't know, maybe lunchtime. I'll open it up, look at some comments, respond to 2 or 3, and then close it up again, and then kind of continue with my work day. Because like, I don't ever want my online presence to jeopardize what I'm actually doing to get my bills paid, right? Which is the job. And it's a job that I love as well. So I never want to screw that up because I'm just out clowning on LinkedIn. Right. And so it also, I say things that will push the envelope occasionally, but never anything that would outright get me fired, because at the end of the day, I am in HR. So I kind of know where the lines are. Right. Yeah. And I hope ongoing understanding with my manager, like as soon as this gets like too hot or whatever, like I'll pull the plug on it, man. Like this is just me trying to build a community around data analysts. But I also, selfishly, but maybe, I don't know, nobly try to see it as furthering our field by bringing a little human element into a field that really needs it, I think. And that's the message that I've got from a lot of people, which is like, I feel more comfortable being myself on this platform because I see what you're posting. And that's like the nicest thing anybody can ever say to me, because it just really validates what I'm trying to do. But even if I'm not out there changing lives, if I can just get a giggle from somebody, I think just a little spark of joy in their day, or some connections that are made in the comment section, like those kind of things are really fulfilling as well. Indeed. And so ultimately, to take this back to like how it impacts my day to day, it just basically becomes a punchline sometimes, right? Like LinkedIn influencer Bill becomes a thing in our team Slack or whatever, or at offsites they'll be like, Bill, don't post this on LinkedIn. Yeah. But otherwise,
he's listening.
And I will say, Netflix has a very no process, low policy sort of culture that is basically like act in Netflix's best interest. So from my perspective, if I'm not acting against their best interests on the platform, it's just like I'm kind of on a neutral line. Right? And so as long as it's not impacting my work, continue to try to deliver things at a high level, then I try to balance it.
I am, I just had a question pop in my head, in my hat. Is there like a bigger cost to doing all of this on LinkedIn? Because I have a cost. I made a decision to wear this back in 2016, and I have to keep the hat on, because actually yesterday I had a meeting with someone that I've known for years, and I've always wear the hat, and I didn't have it on yesterday. And I swear to God, I walked in and they had no idea who I was. I was like, is that much of a difference when I take the hat off? So to me, that's my cost that I have to bear.
There's two costs, I think specifically. One is I don't think I can ever take the pirate flag out of my name on LinkedIn. Maybe it was April or May of last year, I put a poll up that was like, how should I stylize my name? And it was like lowercase Bill Yost, uppercase Bill Yost, just whatever. The proper case, Bill Yost won. But in the comments, Nick Power, who was like going mega viral at the time as well, for just like posting funny, just kind of anti-capitalist, relatable stuff on LinkedIn, commented on it. Like, I don't know, but you should put a pirate flag in there, the pirate flag emoji. And I just thought it was so funny and cheeky that I'm like, okay, done. And I put it in my name. And now it's just become so associated with my brand. It's like, people are like, is it because you pirate like media? I'm like, no, I don't. I pay, I'm an adult now. I pay for all my media. I don't pirate anything anymore. Right. But it's just, it's such a unique, I think, emoji to use, and people have so closely associated with me that even like, when you tag me on mobile, if you put like @Bill Yost and then backspace to try to remove my last name, it removes my first name too, and just becomes the pirate flag. So like, people will tag me just with the pirate flag and be like, yep, there it is. And so I don't think I can ever remove that. And the other cost is I try to post stuff that is funny. I have a hard time like calling myself funny. I feel like it's just in my heart, I'm just a geek and all my jokes never land. But I guess the reality is I've made jokes that have landed before. People associate
like
me.
You were here today because I laughed at your comment. I was like, I need to meet this guy.
leads to these unexpected opportunities. But like, when you're expected to be funny all the time, it means whenever I post something serious, people are like, oh, what the hell? I came to the circus. Why am I at the library? Or people like, oh, you're posting thought leadership. Are you okay? Should I send the authorities?
He's kidnapped.
And it's just like, it's like, well, I am. I consider myself good at my job. I do want to like not be completely associated with like a clown, and I do have things to say meaningfully in my field, sometimes I want to post about that. But it's very difficult now to try to post that stuff without being like, damn, I'm not being funny. How can I be more funny in this post? So I try to work like simple jokes into more serious things. But the reality is like my bland thought leadership definitely does not perform as well as my like spreadsheets are dumb kind of jokes that definitely take off a lot more regularly.
I think I saw you put it, you write like a footer in your post, and it's like the funniest stuff I've ever read.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of everything.
Oh my gosh. Thanks for bringing that up. I kind of forgot about that, to be honest. That became associated with my brand because like, I don't know, probably around the same time I put the pirate flag into my name. I noticed a lot of people, influencers and what have you, were making posts that would be like, post, then in the signature, -- I'm at whoever, and I post about financial modeling and business. And
I have 160,000 subscribers.
Yeah, share this and follow for more information. And I just like found it so strange, right? It's just so generic and maybe it converts. I don't know. I didn't do the research or whatever, but I looked at it and I was like, that's real estate for a joke. I could just like put jokes there, and I started poking fun at that whole convention by being like, I'm Bill and joke. Sometimes it would add on to the content itself. Sometimes it would be a complete non sequitur that just comes out of left field and you're like, what does that have to do with anything? But either way, it like got people to read it. And that in turn increases the dwell time on the post and makes people like giving them another avenue to comment on like the joke after the joke, if you will.
Right.
And it turns out people start replicating that, and they start putting the jokes
around a few times. And I was like, wait, this is Bill's? I was like, oh, that's not Bill.
I love it. I welcome it. By all means, everybody, please go ahead and continue to put jokes in your signatures. It's way better than the other version of it. But it then takes on a life of its own where the jokes actually become more controversial than the original thing that I'm parodying, which is arguably the thing that you should be more mad about, which is this very generic, bland stuff. And so I've actually had posts where people are like, oh, what's going on? Why are people putting these stupid jokes? Like I immediately unfollow somebody who puts a joke in their sign off. And I'm like, oh my gosh,
calm down.
Wow. You're so anti-fun. Yeah. And so at this point, I just continue to do it because I like it. And the fact that it makes a certain type of person angry is like, good. That's a feature and not a bug. Like you stay away from my posts. You don't. I don't need you here if you're gonna like read a joke and be angry. But yeah, I've had people get really mad about that kind of stuff. Go on like long rants or like multiple post crusades about how bad I am because I'm putting jokes in my signature, and I'm just like,
who hurt you?
I'm like, just in the abstract. I mean, I didn't, mention this at the onset, but like I'm a 2-time thyroid cancer survivor, right? So it's bro, I literally had cancer. Like jokes in the signatures are never going to be a thing that registers on my radar of giving a damn about. Like I can't imagine having few problems in life that you key in on that thing. In fact, good for those people. I'm glad that you live such a privileged existence that you have time to be mad about those things because you stare death in the face a couple times. It shifts your perspectives significantly. Indeed. And in this specific way, like I came out on the other side being like, I want to laugh more. I want to enjoy every moment that I have because I learned way too young in my 20s that it can go away at any moment. And so I want to have joy and spread joy. And if you're going to get mad at that, it's like, that's okay. That's your prerogative, not mine.
Wow. That's powerful. That was going to be my next question. I was going to ask you like, why is this so, it seems very important to you to do this. But now I get it now.
Yeah.
Wow, it's powerful. Just going through all that and still being able to smile and make other people happy. That's just tells so much as to who you are as a person. So thank you for doing that because you make my day. Like I'll be just sitting, my wife knows who you are, but
I'm honored. What, you like read her my post?
Yeah. So she doesn't have LinkedIn, so I would do a screenshot and I was like, check this out. It's like, we have so many screenshots of your post. And I was like, this is so funny. So I do want to know, how do you come up with all those ideas? Because I know you do it sounds so like effortless when I'm reading it. And I don't, maybe this is just my entrepreneurial mind. Like there's no objective behind it. I don't understand what you yield from those posts, but I'm sure you yield a lot from it at the same time. But I do want to know, like, what's the process of just sitting down and be like, all right, I'm going to post this. And how does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's often influenced by things that are happening at work or in my life, but often, much later. Like sometimes things will happen that I'll kind of like register in the back of my mind, maybe not even as a like, this would be a good post later sort of thing, but just over the course of time, eventually it becomes clear of like, oh, that specific thing might actually work better. And I'll kind of chew on it subconsciously. Like I said, I'm always trying to make jokes and laugh. So I'm always like thinking about the next funny thing. Oftentimes those random thoughts that come into my head would make for good LinkedIn posts. So I try to figure out how I can frame that accordingly and put it out there. But honestly, like I said, I am trying to be better at working out every day. And so a lot of times I'm just like on the treadmill or doing weights, and that just gives my brain some idle time to like try to escape to something that's not the intense workout that I'm doing, right? And it opens up a lot of creative energy at the same time. And so most of my creative process happens between 5:30 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. when I'm doing that workout, right before the post actually goes out. I do have like a Google Doc full of just half-baked ideas. Whenever something pops into my head, I'll try to jot it down. Oftentimes that'll be like when I'm walking my dogs or, just in a long car ride and something comes in and I'm like, I don't really want to flesh out a post right now, but I could come back to this later. Or it's, like I said, stuff that happens at work. Like one post that comes to mind is so there's a small Boulder Netflix office that I was working at the one day. And I was about to leave for the day, and I'm in the kitchen getting my lunch stuff out of the fridge, and it shares a door with this conference room that a director is sitting in. And I hear him on the end of the call be like, yeah, you can include me if you think it would be helpful. And like the tenor of his voice was very much like, don't include me on this, dude. But he gave, the agency to his subordinate to make that call. He was trying to be nice. He's a very nice guy. And I respect it, but he was very much like his poker face was not on. Like I could just hear it in his voice. And so as I'm walking out the door, I'm like thinking, boy, that would be an excellent post, right? Like if a director says that in quotes, it means don't invite me to the meeting. And before I even got in my car and drove away, I decided to fire that post off. And like, as I'm driving home, my phone just like, because it just resonated with so many people that it's just like, oh my God, it was either I'm a subordinate and I've experienced this, or I'm a director and this is spot on.
Unfortunately, I am him.
Right? And so it's that one, it hits universal truth and humor at the same time, which in a way that just like really captures the essence of, I think, what people are trying to get when they read this kind of stuff. But also there's a little nugget of wisdom in there, which is like, if you hear this thing, assess whether you should actually include director on the invite or not. And I don't know, maybe there's somebody out there who didn't know that before. So yeah. And I'll also, I'll get texts from people who are like, this would be a good LinkedIn post, but like they don't post on LinkedIn regularly and they know that I do, and they think perhaps it would be better coming from my voice anyway. And so I'll like take that idea and put my own spin on it, of course, but some of my posts are definitely like from friends, and then they'll be like, oh man, that post is doing numbers, and they're like kind of in on the ride with me, and just we kind of this mutual enjoyment of it. So that's awesome. Eventually your following gets big enough that people start crowdsourcing you jokes as well, which I deeply appreciate. Send me your jokes don't send me your jokes. Sorry, I can't do it.
Hey, be careful what you put out there. You'll be at work.
R.I.P. my LinkedIn inbox. The LinkedIn inbox is already kind of unmanageable. I'm well behind on messages. Just I wish I could get back to everybody, but the reality is between my day job being a dad, being a husband, taking care of my dogs, trying to take care of my physical health, the limited time that I do spend on LinkedIn, I try to do it in the public facing forums, the posts, the comments. So the DMs definitely take a backseat to that, unless it's a great opportunity like the one we have here today. So I definitely answer your DMs. Thank you.
No, yeah. I mean, I spend time actually engaging with you online, because I hate people that I don't know message me out of the blue.
Yeah.
And then they'll always just go for like the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
I want to save your life. I'm just like, hey, nice to meet you. Calm down.
I often make the joke that it's always something that helps them, and never like, hey, Bill, here's a big bag of cash. Right. That one's never happened before. But
I'll probably say, hey, what's up?
I would welcome it.
Right.
But I do, I have grown a lot of good relationships with people that are in the LinkedIn DM. So I have messages that I will regularly respond to, or when I see somebody, like yourself, who pops up regularly in my comments, I'll definitely answer them. But for every one of those, I'm not even exaggerating, probably 20 or 25, just like, hey, can we have a coffee chat so I can like ask you stuff, or you can I can ask for a referral to
pick your brain.
And it's just, it's like, if I let everybody pick my brain, I would have none left. It's all of these things take a little bit of a toll. Like even a 30-minute coffee chat is a considerable chunk of like my day, right? When you consider when I'm not doing all the other things that I mentioned before, or sleeping, right? There's only so many productive hours. And if I give a half hour just so somebody can be like, hey, I like your LinkedIn post. It's like,
You're like, thank you.
Thank you. But I don't need a half hour to talk about that. So I have tried to tinker with like how I could open up some sort of coffee chat hours or time for people to sign up, but it's just hard when it's not tied to making any money. I mean, I hate to be greedy.
Just put a price, because I charge $500 just to have a one-on-one conversation.
What?
And it was a joke, because I was, I used to be like having meetings all the time, especially in KC here. And one day on my calendar, like I just put 500 in, and someone paid for it, and people started paying for it. I was like, okay, because I like worked in the film industry. I used to be a chief. It's kind of like two different titles. I was a CFO and the CMO for a little bit, and then all of those experiences I worked for some really major companies where I did advertising for them. So every now and then I'll have someone reach out, hey, I have this campaign and I want to hire you. I said, I don't have time, but I can spend 2 hours every week and it will cost you this. Here's my calendar link, whatever price works for you. And they book it, and it works.
Whoa.
Like, people would book it if you just have a link in your bio with just an amount in there. It always surprised me until today. And then the other side is like, I'm going out of my way to make sure that they get the most value. But sometimes within the 10, 15 minutes, they were like, whoa, this is awesome.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like, oh, I haven't even got to the most valuable aspect of my consultation.
So for me, the pressure for me would be tremendous, right? If someone booked, let's say $500 for an hour conversation, I'm
thinking about actually upping my price, because now that we have a 10-month-old baby, I don't have much time. So I'm thinking about pushing it to like a $700 or $1,000 and seeing what happens.
I would be like, tell me, how do you not, because I would be buckling under the pressure of making that be the best bang for their buck. Because I would be like, oh my gosh, they just paid $700 for this hour. I better damn well be worth it. Like, I think that would add another level of stress to me that I don't know if I would be able to handle.
No, yeah, I had the same stressors, but I remember I had a meeting with someone, and through me having a conversation with them, I was able to open doors for them, and he was able to close a $120,000 deal. And it got to a point that he called me back and even paid me more, because he felt like, he should pay me more. Like, some people genuinely want to pay you, but the fact that you don't have a way, they're not paying you because they genuinely have so much respect for you, and they don't want to, abuse your time. It's the people that just don't care, that are like, hey, let's grab coffee. Some of them, they just want to learn, and they don't know the right way to ask. So they just throw something out there and hopefully it sticks. But there are people that are hidden. They probably don't like your posts. They probably don't comment, but they just want to talk to you, and they will pay to just have that one-on-one, and virtually too. I don't even meet people nowadays. So I'm surprised, with the amount of exposure that you are getting. I'm sure there's, 1% of your audience that's like, I would love to know, how is he able to be himself on LinkedIn? How can I apply that for myself? Because I do talk to a lot of CEOs in this podcast, and a lot of them are aware that they need to be more online. They need to share more, and not like the ones that are like in charge of like the like the U.S. market, but the ones that are in like the $2 million to like $30 million. They all want to be out there. They want to be able to talk. They want to be able to communicate, but they don't know how to do it. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on this podcast, just to share how were you able to do all these things and have time to do it, which, you've been so nice to share how you were going about your process. Because I know they're listening. I'm like, okay, that's what I need to do. But then they're going to be like, well, that's a lot of work to do. And that's when people like us come in and be like, here's a schedule and this is how you do it. Follow this, do this. And they'll actually follow it because they don't have time to come up with that. So I would look into it because you do really good work.
I might. It'll have to be like on Saturdays and Sundays because still like the work day is hard for me. But don't be surprised if you see like, all right, Saturday, $500, come talk to me.
Hey, just with a prize. And people see the value and they see that whatever you post, especially lately, has been going out there. Like it's getting the impressions, and LinkedIn is pretty difficult to like get those impressions.
It seems like it's getting harder by the day as well. Yeah. Even just posts from, 6 months ago would do a lot better. I think better. Because I don't really ever straight repost the content. I'm thankfully have a lot of just stupid ideas in my head that I can just spin into LinkedIn posts. But like I have tried one or two like very similar styled posts to ones that went viral 6 months ago. And it's a different ballgame. Yeah, that algorithm is ever shifting. I think there's a lot of people who will claim to know the secrets.
Knows.
Nobody knows. Even LinkedIn engineers are pretty much like, like it's opaque by design. Like this is the kind of, because we don't want anybody to be able to know how to game it. And I think in absence of a playbook on how to, game it and make it work every time, there is this common denominator of like just being a real human, communicating things that are both insightful and funny over the course of the long run will hold up. But yeah, let's say my first, 7 million impressions came a lot easier than my second 7 million impressions over the last couple of years. Right. I think I just maybe hit 15 million over the past 365 days. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the nice.
Those are expensive.
Yeah.
I ran an ad agency for a very long time, and LinkedIn is really difficult to get impressions in general. And you have to spend like a lot of money. Like a single click can sometimes cost easy to like $35.
Whoa.
Yeah. Just the cost per click on LinkedIn. And now, I've seen some like metrics where it's going up to $120. Because the audience is quality audience. It's people that are there ready to buy something. This is me just going to my marketing heart.
I'll take.
But no, it's like getting 15 million. Like that's wow. That's something else. I would look into it for sure, just to make sure that you can carve out time for yourself. And to me, I don't even accept all of the, like calls that are coming in. And my goal is to do 3 every month. And then that's it, because it's just an extra money that I can, do date night, do just random stuff that I need. Because I don't want to like also work way too much, in my startup. Yeah. So I do this on the side just to talk to business owners.
Do you think your listeners are like these freaking jerks talking about charging $500?
I know, right?
Sorry.
No, like they're already aware. I like talk about this all the time.
Okay,
and
good.
I always like encourage other, people that are out there, doing really good work, to just take out 5 hours and just sell that to someone else, just to have one-on-one with them, like an hour, $500. You just have a genuine conversation with them. And it's so like weird to me. Sometimes I go in to talk about, what they hired me to talk about, but I just like 2 weeks ago, I had a call with someone who, they just wanted to talk about what they were dealing with on a personal level. And it was such a deep conversation. And then we barely talked about the work itself because she just loved the quality of the work and she didn't really care, but she just wanted to talk to me. And I've been, she's the first person that actually bought back then when I had it for $250, and then now I went to $500, and I'm actually, in the process of, increasing my price, which I will show you before you leave. It's probably going to be $1,000 or $2,500. I'm just debating and see what would work.
That is.
Yeah. Because people value the things that we do. We just need to figure out who are these people.
Sure.
And usually it's a small number. It's like to your dad's, what he said, 99% of people are good. But in this case, the 99%, they just want to be there. They want to experience it. But there's 1% that need what you're doing and they want to understand it.
Wow.
They're like, I want to do what you are doing. How can I do that? And walk me through your process, which you were doing here freely.
Yeah.
So this is how it would be like someone asking you and you just having a framework. I hate the term framework, but it works. So be like, this is what you need to do and this is how you do it. And like analysts make a lot of money. They, with just being like consulting.
Yeah.
And I apologize. This is now, it's a podcast, but I'm here going into marketing and
I'll take it.
But yeah, I want you to do it because you genuinely make me happy when I see your post on LinkedIn. So I want to make sure that you're also happy.
Thank you.
No, facts. And again, we're getting to the end of this and I know you have to go catch your flight back. I do have a framework that I've created. This twice I'm saying framework within 5 minutes.
How often we say these words we hate, huh?
Right. It's something that I'm calling the 4C index, and the way that it's designed, actually it came from the previous season. Every guest that I've interviewed, they either shared one of those 4 C's as their core pillars on how they lead as a leader, and how it's helping them make better decisions and also scale their businesses. And the 4 C's are, the first one is clarity, communication capacity, and crisis. And the way that it works is to address whether your organization is slowly leaning towards conflict or connection. So those 4 C's help you navigate that. So the way that it applies to me, I had an agency where most of my leadership structure did not exist. We're vibing, just doing whatever, which caused a lot of internal conflict. So we were leading towards conflict.
Yeah.
And as someone who's an analyst, and I read somewhere that you've caught fraud close to $1.5 million in fraud.
Wow, you do follow me closely. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Unfortunately, or fortunately.
Unfortunately for you.
My wife says unfortunately. Stop sending me bill stuff. But yeah, so as someone whose job, I felt like it kind of operates around that. Maybe you have a different way of calling the 4 C's. But how do you see that play out for you as an analyst? And then just, and all the time that you've spent with all of these massive companies.
So the first one, clarity,
yeah.
I think really, really resonates because that's succinctly summarizes what I do on a day-to-day basis, which is bring clarity to this very messy sphere of unstructured or semi-structured data. So companies are collecting so much data about everything, right? You really need steady hands and skilled mind to come in and bring clarity to that noise and try to make sense of it, because I know there are so many companies out there that are collecting this data and don't have any idea what to do with it. That 1.5 million fraud story, I won't go really deep into it, but I basically got a data set from a fraud manager, was fooling around with my Tableau license for the first time, just geeking out about making dashboards and just bringing visual elements to this data. And I made a very simple scatter plot of just number of transactions and amount of spend. And then plotted the dots were people, right? And it was just how much were people swiping the card and how much were they spending? And I sent it over to a fraud manager and that I was working with. And within 10 minutes, he pops his head out of his office. He's like, Yost, get in here. I run into his office. He shuts the door, turns the monitor around all cryptic like, and he's like, look at this. Do you see this? And he points the dot to the top right. And like, that's the reason you make a scatter plot, is to like find the thing that's up at the top right. And I was like, well, yeah, I saw it. I was making this dashboard. It's kind of hard to miss. And he's like, I think this is real. I think this is real fraud. I'm going to go investigate it. And he did. And it was real. And it was to the tune of like $1.5 million. Wow. And that's what really, put staked my claim in the ground of like, this guy knows what he's doing with data analysis, but like I didn't, I just kind of stumbled. I stumbled bass backwards into that finding. It's one of my favorite stories because like it happened so early on in my career, and it's like one of the things that data analysts might go their whole careers without finding something of that magnitude. Right. And that's okay. Like that's a needle in a haystack sort of finding. But this succinct summary of that was I just brought clarity to what he already had. This spreadsheet was on his desktop for, I don't know, months, right? If he fired this up, he could have found this in a dozen other different ways that didn't involve me putting into a dashboarding platform and making a picture out of it. But I did do that. And that's what led him to that realization. And so of those four, clarity is my favorite, but give me the other three and we could talk about it.
Clarity, communication. The third one is capacity and crisis. Okay.
So communication, and I think in this case plays really closely with the clarity element of it, right? It's bringing clarity to that data, communicating in a way that lands with the stakeholder, right?
And the capacity, I think he was out of capacity, and the fact that you were able to take that on,
absolutely,
and like delegating that to you and you actually helping out.
Because he's super busy. He was a senior manager, director of the fraud department at the time.
Stressful.
He was dealing with a lot of stuff, right? And this T&E thing was more of a, well, maybe we could take a look at it, right? The capacity part was just lacking. And that's why he was engaging with my firm, because we were co-sourced providers of services to fulfill that capacity, right? That's why you hire a consulting company to bolster your capacity. And then last one, courage.
So the last one is crisis. It's the big C.
Okay.
That if you don't have the first three right, then you are leaning into capacity.
Got it.
Yes.
Yeah. So
crisis.
Crisis.
Too many C's.
Too many C's. I think the fifth C could be courage. I don't know if you're trying to expand your
every
framework,
person that I've had on this podcast. That's why it keeps extending. That's why now I have the small C's. You're either leaning into connection or conflict.
Right.
Those are the new C's that got added this year. And now courage is like, hey, what's up? So,
I like that. You got 5 fingers on that. It's good.
I know, right?
The crisis, right, is avoided in this circumstance, because the crisis is this person continues to steal money from your company, and it becomes a much larger instance when someone else realizes it. Much more money has walked out the door. It becomes, 1.5 million is a lot, but unchecked, it could be 5, it could be 10. They've clearly gotten away with a lot of it already. They're going to keep doing it, and so we're leveraging those first 3 to avoid that crisis. So I think it plays into your model quite well, honestly. I didn't expect to be talking about that little scatter plot today, but I'm liking that it fits this so well.
No, it does. Every guest that I've had so far, it's like they have a scenario that the 4 C's fit in exactly, and they always had a C in there.
It's a good framework.
So I'll think about courage for sure.
The courage to look in this case,
speak up, because a lot of people are afraid to be like, hey, this doesn't look right, because you're also putting yourself out there.
And I do think, the jokes about this specific instance aside, the courage piece of it is something that leaders are going to have to undergo at some point. Like, especially now as we, take on more AI stuff into our workflows and our day to day that could like implement biases or bad outcomes. Well, everybody is really excited to implement this stuff. It's not always going to go perfectly. Sometimes it does take courage to raise your hand and go, something's not right here. Like being the voice of dissent is still really important if we're trying to have level conversations that achieve meaningful outcomes. Like we can't all be yes men, right? And being the no person will take courage. So
no, absolutely. But yeah, we've gotten to the end of this conversation, and and I'm trying to do my best. I haven't even got to my next questions, but I'll save that. I know that you do have a cookie business, right?
Yes.
Tell me more about that. I love cookies. I have cake home that I'm still eating, and then I also decided to make some really big ass cookies. So
thank you for asking. Yeah. So when I had my first, when I was going in for my first cancer surgery, I was having surgery on my neck. I was very scared, and I was trying to think of like things that I wanted to achieve if I came out on the other side. One of them was foster dogs, which I ended up doing 19 dog fosters before my daughter was born, and it takes a lot of time, so I had to hang it up. But also launch a cookie business with my mom, because she for years had been mailing me her just delicious homemade, often chocolate chip cookies to me in college, and then to my roommates when I was, first out of college, living in a house in DC, and then to me at my house when I was living with my girlfriend and then wife. And I would always get so many of these cookies in a mailing container that I would just take them to work or school or whatever and just give them away to people. And the reaction was phenomenal. It was just, people were like, these are delicious. These are the best cookies I've ever tasted. And at some point I realized like, oh, this is a legitimately good product. This is not just people being really nice to Bill because his mom made them. And I saw it as an opportunity to try to set her up for like a really low stakes but fulfilling retirement gig was the idea to begin with, because she was at this point 4 or 5 years away from retiring and was actively working full time at a Walmart at that point. So like scaling it up early on was not really an option, but I wanted to get the infrastructure in place so that we could do that if she wanted to. And that's something that she was really interested in, and her name is Sharon, so we named it Cookies Worth Sharon because puns are funny.
That's
funny.
Good.
Cookiesworthsharon.com. You can go look them up right now.
Get more cookies from Cookies from Sharon.
And they and I just, in my recovery period after the first surgery, I just kind of dove into learning how to launch a business and make it work with relatively low expenses so that we could produce these cookies and ship them to the US, basically. We've gotten them as far as Hawaii. We've never tried Alaska, but if somebody wants to give it a shot, order them. We'll see what happens. And we just kind of launched it and let it exist. We're not making life-changing money off of the cookies or anything, but it's enough to keep the business going. And it's a really unique way for me to just kind of stay in contact with my mom now that she's in Pennsylvania. I'm in Colorado, a couple time zones away. It's just it's been an interesting experience having your parent as your business partner. But it's been super fulfilling. I just try to do all of the non-cookie making stuff. So accounting, marketing, just everything really. That's the taxes. In fact, I need to remember to go do the taxes when I get back from this trip because they're due.
April is around the corner.
And just enable her to get the orders, cook and ship. And she enjoys doing it. And it's just always a thing that we just have now as a fun fact to be like, yeah, you like these cookies? I have a cookie company. And so that has also become part of my LinkedIn brand as well, because I'll sometimes in the comments be like, I'll send you some cookies, DM me your address, and then people will, and then I'll go put an order in and they'll actually get cookies. That's awesome. They'll put a little video up of them sampling the cookies or whatnot. And it's been a great experience. I recommend, just try. I mean, not everybody probably has a mom who makes as good a cookies as mine. In fact, nobody does, right? But any just like interesting avenue you have, like it's worth exploring. You never know where it might lead. And in this case, it's just like an interesting and fun little side money project for us. Some people think it's my full-time job because I have cookie CEO in my headline.
Oh yes, you do.
But it's not even close to my full-time job. It doesn't actually take a lot of time when it's all said and done.
Wow. Well, and you like get to work with your mom, which I find. My mom has been battling with dialysis for the past 7 years. I wish we had a cookie business, but I don't think she knows how to make cookies. Hopefully she doesn't hear this part. Our excuse is that she's not from here. We're from Africa, and then we like migrated here. So she doesn't know how to make cookies. Okay. So I love cookies. Back then when I was a kid, my uncle would always bring cookies home, and it became like a thing where it was like you have cookies, you hide it from your siblings, and you eat it little by little.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have to send you cookies now.
No,
DM me your
I was
address.
going to ask you, where can I go get some?
No, I'm sending them to you. You're not ordering them.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, now that we've gotten to the end of the conversation, we have a closing tradition, and I like to focus the attention back to the guest as a person. And I want to know, based on everything that we've talked about today and all the conversation you've had leading up to here at this moment, how is your spirit right now?
Strong, I would say. I think like most people, lots of ups and downs and hard swings in between. Particularly for me, my late 20s, early 30s was difficult with health diagnosis, and we struggled with infertility before my daughter was born through IVF. Great science, very grateful for all of that. But when you hit those really low points, it makes you appreciative of the higher times, right? And makes you acutely more aware of when you're in them. And I think right now I'm in a good place in my life. Got a career that I enjoy, family that loves me, lots of unexpected, promising things like doing this podcast just because I decided to make some jokes on LinkedIn. Right. So yeah, strong.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. You brought a lot of different perspective, but in such a funny way online. So thank you, my online friend, to now IRL, as the kids say it, IRL.
I don't know if they say that anymore.
In real life.
The kids
did I just age myself?
Yeah, Gen Z has come and just changed all of our lingo.
Man, it's like there's so much lingo. Like my 8-year-old just say some things. I'm like, wait, what? What's happening? So we're trying to take him to a different school now, because now I want him to learn, like French as well. So that because I feel he talks, I'm like, what are you saying? Yeah. So, but it's his generation. So.
I was at a wedding last summer where my 12-year-old nephew was saying 6-7 before, like a month before it became really huge online.
It must have been so confusing.
And I was just like, what is happening? And I thought like, he was just being like him and his classmates were just being idiots. Yeah. And then I realized that it's like the new phrase. Yeah. It's just like sweeping.
No one knows what it means.
And I'm like, I'm so old because I missed the boat on this one. I don't think I'm invited on it. So.
We all did. So, yeah. But again, thank you so much for coming out to KC and being here. Hopefully we can have you back by the end of the year, just because at the end of the season, I bring all the guests back in KC across the country. And we have a great time.
Oh, fantastic.
So hopefully you can be back again.
And see you again.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.